The age-old Rainicorn-Dog conflict that lasted for 1,000 years. How did it happen? This saga's got more twists and turns than the Ice King's love life, and we're about to take them all on. But before we venture into the wild realms of speculation, let's do a quick rewind to make sure we're all on the same page. These legendary Rainicorn-Dog conflicts were a turf war fought in the Crystal Dimension, lasting for what seems like eons. And who were the combatants? None other than our lovable dogs and majestic Rainicorns. We get the scoop on this from Jake in the Her Parents episode, and it's got us all tangled in a web of intrigue. This episode also shows us a picture from the war which could have led to the final conclusion with a dog saving a Rainicorn, but more on that later. From Jake's sketch and Bob Rainicorn's photo with the dog who saved his life, it's clear that this wasn't your regular backyard scrap. Oh no. We're talking about flying saucers zooming around, laser guns blasting, and mushroom clouds blooming. And it's still a mystery who walked away with the Crystal Dimension under their control. In fact, Bob and Ethel Rainicorn are still hanging out there. Alright, we'll take a deep breath. I've got the lowdown. Now it's time to crank up our Adventure Time Speculation Nomadic 3000 and dive into some deliciously wild theories about this mystifying clash. Our first order of business is tackling the giant flying saucer-shaped question mark. What started this conflict? Given its territory dispute, it sounds like it could have been something as simple as the dogs and Rainicorns wanting the same crystal territory. But remember folks, we're dealing with Adventure Time here. There's always a layer of mystery under that candy-coated surface. Could the crystal resources themselves have sparked the conflict? We know that crystals in Adventure Time are not just shiny babbles. Oh no, they've got powers and properties beyond our wildest imagination. Could the dogs and Rainicorns have been fighting over these magical resources? Or did a power-hungry leader on either side trigger the war? The plot thickens, folks. But I think something totally different happened. Remember how dogs are often hailed as man's best friend? It's a relationship that goes way back, with dogs always having our backs. And who's to say that this age-old bond wasn't put to the ultimate test in the land of Ooh? Let's say the Rainicorns, those magnificent magical creatures, took a turn for the sinister side and started hunting and feasting on humans. We know this to be the case, with Lady Rainicorn's parents saying that they love the taste of humans, soy humans to be exact. But even the humans who fled Ooh that Marceline ran into in the Stakes miniseries, they were running from the crazy, hungry rainbow creatures.
Or them hungry-looking rainbows.
Which are the Rainicorns. A horrifying scenario, yes, but it's in line with the darker undertones of Adventure Time, where things aren't always as sugar-coated as they seem. And what happens when man's best friend sees their companion in danger? You guessed it, folks, they leap into action. With their loyalty and bravery, the dogs decided to step up to the plate, taking on the role of protectors and guardians. They stood against the Rainicorns, marking the start of the Rainicorn-Dog conflicts. But as the fight raged on, both sides found themselves in the Crystal Dimension, a realm of untold potential and power. Perhaps the dogs chased the Rainicorns into this new dimension, or maybe it was discovered by sheer chance. But one thing's for sure, this became their new battleground. The fight for survival escalated into a fight for territory, transforming the conflict into a conflict of epic proportions. Now let's move on to that epic piece of art, Jake's drawing. He's given us a snapshot of a battlefield with flying saucers and laser guns. But what's that looming in the background? A mushroom cloud. Does this suggest that the war escalated to such an extent that the use of these devastating weapons became necessary? Or was this an act of desperation and a conflict that had already been raging for centuries? Now, mushroom clouds aren't anything new in the Adventure Time universe. In fact, the Mushroom War is one of Adventure Time's staples. So while its presence suggests an escalation of warfare, I'm convinced that this was a desperate move. Picture this conflict spanning centuries, neither side willing to back down, both pushed to their limits. Yes, folks, I'm wagering that the use of such catastrophic weaponry was a final, desperate act in a conflict that had ground to a deadlock. Conclusion? The Mushroom Cloud, I believe, symbolizes a desperate act in a seemingly endless conflict between the Rainicorns and the dogs. Now, the final and arguably most tantalizing question is, who won? So we know that an enemy dog saved the life of the high-ranking Rainicorn pilot Bob. This unexpected show of compassion and camaraderie might just have been the turning point in the age-old conflict. Bob and his wife Ethel find themselves indebted to the dogs. And this is huge, folks. We have two Rainicorns, one of them a war veteran, who owe a life debt to their supposed enemies. This act of bravery from the dog not only changed the course of the war, but might have also sparked a change in mindset, breaking down the barriers and creating a bridge between the two species. And wouldn't you know it, the war ends not too long after. Coincidence? I think not. It's clear as day that this event was the catalyst for peace. Sure, the tensions didn't evaporate completely. Let's face it, the memory of a war that raged for thousands of years isn't going to be be wiped out overnight, but it was the start of a new era, an era of uneasy peace. The fact that Bob and Ethel's daughter, Lady Rainicorn, is one of the main characters in Adventure Time and Jake's girlfriend signifies the progress that has been made. This interspecies relationship would have been unthinkable during the times of the war, further indicating that the landscape of the Crystal Dimension, and indeed the mindset of its inhabitants, has evolved significantly. So, coming back to our tantalizing final question, who won? Drumroll please. I'm gonna wager that there's no clear winner here. The end of the Rainicorn-Dog Wars was not marked by the victory of one species over the other, but rather by an act of kindness that lit the path to coexistence. The real victory lies in the evolution of attitudes, the breaking down of ancient grudges, and the hopeful progress towards a peaceful coexistence. It's a long journey, and they're still on the way. But as we all know, the most adventurous journeys often start with that single step, or in this case, a single act of kindness on the battlefield. And as we unravel the mysteries of the Rainicorn-Dog Wars, one character inevitably comes into focus. Jake the dog. He's not just an ordinary mutt, he's an enigma. Just when you think you've got a handle on him, he surprises you with another hidden layer.
That being his family, and more specifically his brother Jermaine. Jermaine didn't live the best of life. In fact, his life sucked pretty bad. And I have an entire video going over his entire life. So what are you waiting for? Let's go find out more about Jake's family.